Today it is the entire focus. Steadfastness with the seed, what it means, what it looks like, why it is not optional, and how it is the active expression of everything understood in these 14 days. This is the 7-minute daily focus. Day 124 of 365, to focus on the world within from the world without. Today's focus, the law of seed, steadfastness with the seed. Pause for a moment. 11 days in, steadfastness, this word has appeared throughout the system. Today it is the entire focus. Steadfastness with the seed, what it means, what it looks like, why it is not optional, and how it is the active expression of everything understood in these 14 days. Pause. Steadfastness is not stubbornness. It is not inflexibility. It is not refusing to engage with reality. Steadfastness is the active, ongoing choice to remain upon what is within, when what is without suggests otherwise. It is not passive, it is not accidental, it is the deliberate refusal to allow what is physically seen to redirect what is sustained within. Pause. Steadfastness is active because the pressure against it is constant. What is without speaks constantly. Conditions change constantly. The 5 senses report constantly, and much of what they report will not confirm what is within, will suggest delay, will suggest absence, will suggest that what is within is not developing. Steadfastness is the response to all of that. Not denial, not pretense, but the active choice to remain upon the seed regardless of the report. Thought is within, effect is without, thinking stands between. Pause for a moment. Why is steadfastness essential for the seed? Because the seed develops over time, and during that time, the physical world has not yet expressed what is within, and during that period, the 5 senses report nothing, and a mind not trained in steadfastness will interpret that absence of physical evidence as evidence of absence, will interpret the silence of the 5 senses as confirmation that the seed is not real. And from that interpretation, will move away from the seed, and in moving away, will interrupt the development. Pause. The steadfast mind operates differently. The steadfast mind sees the absence of physical evidence and knows its place. Physical evidence is expression. Expression comes after development. Development comes from sustained thinking, and sustained thinking requires steadfastness. So the absence of physical evidence does not tell the steadfast mind that the seed is not developing. It tells the steadfast mind that development is still underway, and that sustained thinking upon the seed is precisely what the moment requires. Pause. Steadfastness also has this quality. It is not strained. The steadfast mind is not white-knuckling its way through difficulty. Steadfastness is grounded, it is calm, it is based in the recognition of what is within, not in effort to maintain a feeling, but in the clarity of what the first sense has confirmed. The seed is complete, the law is operating, development is underway. This knowing is the foundation of steadfastness, and from that foundation, steadfastness is not difficult. It is natural. Pause for a moment. Consider what steadfastness looks like across a day. The morning practice establishes recognition. The first sense confirms the seed. Thinking is aligned, and as the day begins, conditions speak. This is not a problem. It is the expected state of things. Conditions always speak. Steadfastness is the quality that allows you to hear conditions speak and return to the seed. Not after a long battle, not after significant disturbance, but as a natural response. Conditions speak, you hear them, you return to the seed. That is steadfastness in practice. Pause. Steadfastness is also what protects the seed in its most vulnerable period. The most vulnerable period for a seed is the period before any physical sign of expression has appeared, because in that period, the five senses report nothing, and a mind not trained in steadfastness will interpret that silence as evidence that the seed is not developing, will begin to question what is within, will begin to redirect thinking toward what is without, and in doing so will interrupt the very development that was about to produce expression. Steadfastness holds through that period, not through force, but through knowing. The knowing that the absence of physical evidence is simply the period before expression, not the absence of development. Pause. And here is what steadfastness produces that nothing else can. When you remain steadfast through the period before expression, an expression eventually arrives. The evidence of the law becomes real to you at a new level. Not intellectual understanding, lived experience. You experienced the silence. You chose to remain on the seed, and the seed expressed. And in that sequence, the law became real in a way that no teaching can fully convey. This is the deepest benefit of steadfastness. Not just that it enables development, but that the experience of remaining steadfast through the process builds a trust in the law that operates at the level of the first sense, and that trust makes every subsequent act of steadfastness more natural. Pause. Steadfastness has a companion. That companion is the understanding of the law. The more deeply you understand the law of seed, the more natural steadfastness becomes, because steadfastness is not arbitrary. It is rooted in understanding. You remain on the seed because you know the seed is complete. You remain because you know development requires sustained thinking. You remain because you know expression follows development. And the clearer this understanding is, the less effort steadfastness requires. It becomes simply the logical response to what the law tells you is true. And logical responses do not strain. They simply operate from understanding, not doubtfulness, not struggle, not force. You are not pushing the seed, not pressure. You are not trying to make it happen, but steadfastness, focused. Remain aligned with what is within. Do not be moved by what is physically seen, because what is physically seen is always secondary to what is unfolding. Pause. Steadfastness grows through practice. The first day of practice, steadfastness may be fragile. Conditions may move it easily, but with each day of returning to the seed after interruption, steadfastness deepens, because each return builds the evidence within that the seed is real. Each return strengthens the first sense's confidence in what is within. And as confidence deepens, steadfastness becomes more natural, more settled, more difficult to displace. This is the progressive strengthening of steadfastness through sustained practice. Pause. Steadfastness with the seed is the embodiment of everything learned in these 14 days. You understand the seed. You understand its nature. You understand that thought and seed are the same. You understand the ground. You understand recognition. You understand active and passive thinking. And you understand continuity. And all of that understanding expressed in action is steadfastness, remaining focused upon the seed, regardless of what is without. Now the affirmation for day 124. Pause for a moment. I remain steadfast. I am not moved by what is physically seen. I am not moved by the absence of physical evidence. I am not moved by conditions that speak against what is within. I remain upon the seed, because the seed is complete, because the law is operating, because development is underway. Steadfastness is not effort. It is the natural expression of knowing what is real. I know what is within. I sustain thinking upon it, and because I remain steadfast, The seed develops fully, and because it develops, it unfolds, and what unfolds must physically express. Remember, by design, by focus,